Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today we are going to be talking about confidence. And if there is one thing that I could do, if I could take that confidence and bottle it and give it to you and, create something where you just have to take a little dose every day in that way, then, if someone would have already figured it out, then they'd be a very wealthy person. And, let me tell you, they have tried in the form of diet pills and quick fixes and these miracle cures that people are selling. But the reality of it is that those things don't work. And the reason why is because no one can sell you confidence. I can't sell you confidence. But what I can do is teach you how to learn so much about yourself and develop such a deep and powerful inner trust that your confidence appears as a byproduct. And so we're going to be talking about exactly how to do that, what that looks like, what confidence is right here and right now. So keep on watching. Just so we're acquainted, hey, I am Johnna Renée, evidence-based certified life coach, here to teach you all of the ish I wish someone told me about self-discovery and self-acceptance so that you can love yourself and live that #best life that we see everyone talking about. And I do that using brain science to help you actually create behavioral changes. And so I post new trainings every week, just like this. So make sure to follow and hit the bell for notifications. And without further ado, let's dive into it. So first thing I always like to do in these trainings is talk about what I mean when I say this word. So what do I mean when I say self-confidence? So you can look up a definition, and I did it for us. And so self-confidence is defined as a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgment, which, true, confidence is that inner trust that I mentioned earlier. And it is, believing that you have the potential and you have the tools and you have the resources. So the way that I like to define it is that you believe so much in yourself and your abilities that you allow yourself to feel the emotions and have the experiences, and you trust yourself to have the discernment to make the right choices and to make the right decisions, and also to call yourself when and where you recognize in retrospect that, hey, maybe this other action or response would have better served that experience, but you give yourself the grace and knowing that, hey, I only knew what I knew then. And now that I know what I know, I'm going to do better next time, and making that commitment to yourself. That self-confidence, just owning your mistakes. I don't even like to call them mistakes, owning your learnings, owning your choices and decisions, and knowing that you are not going to be a victim of them, but a victor over them. And you're going to use them to empower you so that you can do better next time. And, sometimes that might mean that you look back and you're like, wow, I was really an a-hole there, right? Sometimes that might mean that you are just standing your ground. Sometimes that might mean that, you reacted in a way that looking back, you're like, wow, I really, shrunk myself in that situation. It can look like so many different things. But again, self-confidence is having the trust within yourself to know that you did what you could and what you knew to the best of your abilities at that time. And now that you know that, and you have the discernment, and you're using your neocortex to say, hey, that was then, this is now, and this is in the future. This is what's going to be. You can commit to yourself to choose differently. And so either way, despite what may have been, despite what might be and what may come, you know that you are good either way, because you're going to use the data that comes to you and you're going to decide what to do with it. I also think that self-confidence is being able to hear other people's opinions when, they are in agreement with what you say, and also when they contradict what you believe, because that someone else's perspective is just that, theirs, someone else's. And while it may be in opposition to yours, that whatever they have to say will either A, help you to, stand more steadfast in your current belief, or B, it will help you to say, I've never thought about things like that. And this is something for me to consider, and perhaps shift your point of view, because either way, that's growth, right? Either way, you are standing more steadfast, or you are recognizing that, hey, like maybe there's an opportunity for me here to change what I know. Oftentimes people are like, well, yes, let's be in integrity. Let's not be wishy-washy and always changing your points of views. But at the same time, with more knowledge comes an evolution, right? And so with that evolution, you get to change your opinion, you get to change your perspective, you get to change your point of view, and that's growth. And so all those things to me are self-confidence. And, here's the thing, I always bring up these definitions as a point of reference. And just like I shared, the more data you have, the better, and the better equipped you are to form your conclusions. And so with that, let me ask you, what does your definition of self-confidence sound like, right? Like, how would you define it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How would you explain it to someone who has no idea what it is, or to a child, right? How would you explain it to a child? Because oftentimes what I find is that we are just moving through life. And again, yes, let's use things for data, let's use things for information. But what oftentimes ends up happening is that we take the definitions that others have, not only of, what's possible for them and others, but we take those definitions and we think that those are what define us, right? And so it's really important, like, yes, that we have a shared language that, words mean like the same things. And at the same time, you can, in this sense, when we're talking about things like confidence, when we're talking about things like, inner trust, and we're talking about things like joy and happiness, like we know what they mean. And at the same time, they're going to feel a little bit different to you, right? Like whenever you are making a recipe, like we can all follow the same ingredients. Like we know, like, this is how you make this dish, but you get to put like your own kind of flair in it, right? Like you get to make it your own. And so that's what I'm encouraging you to do when it comes to self-confidence and any of the concepts that I talk about. And so with that, I want to go over really quickly why it's important, right? And so I think that, and I want to hear what you have to say, so definitely comment below and let me know your definition and what your thoughts are on why you think self-confidence is important. But I think for me, it's important because what I have seen is that it impacts your entire life. And if you aren't confident in your choices, if you're always doubting, like, should I do this? Should I do that? Like, did I make the right choice? Like, what does this person think of me? Then you are living in a state of uncertainty. And what happens when you are in that type of a situation is your body is in a perpetual stress response because it doesn't know, like, there is no certainty, there is no control, right? We need certainty in terms of one of our basic needs, because that certainty, that control tells us like, oh, we're safe. Like this is the pattern, this is the habit, consistency means safety. And so if you don't trust yourself enough to know that, hey, I've got this life, whatever you're bringing at me, I've got this, then we oftentimes find ourselves in a position where we are living in that doubt and fear. And that just creates more of that because your brain gets used and your body gets used to those chemicals. And so when you do find yourself in a position where you're like, hey, I do feel confident about this, then your brain's going to be like, but do you really? Like, you don't feel confident about anything else, but this thing you do? Like, why is that? And so it's important that you start to flip that narrative so that you feel more confident in all things. Because when you, again, know that, when you know that you've got, if you don't know how to handle what's coming, then you know that you will figure it out, then that is going to put you in a position of power and control where you feel safe because you trust yourself. So I think we've spoken about, what it is, why it's important. So how do we do it, right? Like, how does one become confident? And so this is what I mentioned earlier, whenever I said, if I could ball it up and be like, here you go, then I definitely would. And it's something that you have to figure out what it looks like for you. I know that's so annoying, right? But it is what it is, and I'm not going to BS you. So when you are looking to increase your confidence, then it is a matter of self-discovery, right? Like, you need to know what your strengths are to build inner trust. You need to celebrate your wins. That's positive psychology. You need to find a supportive community so that they can help encourage you when you're not so sure about encouraging yourself. And one of the simplest things that I can offer you and invite you to do when it comes to increasing your self-confidence is do the things that you say that you're going to do. And what I mean by that is if you say, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., then wake up at 6 a.m. Maybe wake up at 5:55, right? Like what happens when you are in a position where you tell yourself, waking up at 6 a.m. tomorrow, but then 6 a.m. comes and you keep hitting the snooze button. What you're doing is you're subconsciously telling yourself, your brain and your body, hey, I can't trust what I say, so why should anyone else, right? If I can't trust what I say about this thing, why should I trust what I say about anything else? And you start to create doubt subconsciously, right? If you're telling yourself you're going to do one thing and then you don't, then you're starting to create doubt. And that's, again, just going to ripple effect. Then you're going to say, well, I can definitely get this report done by then, but your brain's going to be like, but can you? And you might not know why. And it might, start from the fact that, well, if you think that you're going to wake up at one time and then you don't, then that's going to start to create that narrative, that belief, whether or not you're aware of it or not. And so something that if you've heard this type of an offering before, it kind of ends there, right? Just do what you say you're going to do. And so what I like to offer people, because again, our brains look for habits. And so if you are someone who typically wakes up at like 7:30, runs out the door, then saying, hey, I'm going to wake up at 6, which is an hour and a half earlier, that's a far stretch. So what I like to offer people when it comes to situations like this, and this can go from, waking up early to like, hey, I'm going to start a gym routine. Like, day one or week one, let me go like 5 times a week kind of a thing. If that, like, you're already going to be experiencing resistance because your brain's going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, this is not what we do. Like, what's happening? And so your brain's going to want to go back to like the familiar known. So what I suggest that people do is you start small, kind of under promise, over deliver with yourself, right? So if, for example, you are someone who typically wakes up at 7:30, runs out the door, you want to start waking up at 6, instead of going boom, straight to 6, try 7:15. And now, look, I know you might be like, but that's stupid. Like, that's not very glamorous, but you can do that, right? Like, it's so stupid that you're like, I could definitely do 7:15. Or even 7:25, right? And then if you happen to wake up earlier, great. You have under promised and over delivered. And that is going to create the sensation and the knowing and the trust within yourself that like, hey, I'm doing better than I told myself that I would. Same thing with the gym. If you say that, hey, I'm going to start going 5 days a week, but you haven't been going 1 day a week, then if you say, let me do just one day, let me just do 1 day for week 1, 2 days for week 2, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say week 1 happens and you do 1 day, you feel pretty good. A couple days go by, you do another day, right? So already you've over delivered on your promise to yourself. And that is way better. That's going to have, by far, more positive impacts on your psychological, like, awareness and on your sense of self than saying, let me do 5 days, let me wake up at 6 a.m. and then not doing it and then beating yourself up about it, right? Like, see what I'm saying there? So those are some considerations and offerings for you. Let me know what your first step is going to be to create more confidence this week. And also, I had mentioned that a way to do this is through self-discovery and through learning your strengths, celebrating your wins, and finding that community. So if you're looking to self-discover, then there are also strength finder tests that you can look at online. And those are going to be able to show you how to lean into what it is that you're already good at. Strength-based coaching is the concept that is known as celebrating your wins. That is a positive psychology technique. And so that is simply reflecting on the positives and the wins that you have. And then, of course, finding the supportive community. And if you are looking to do that, I got a group for you. You can find it linked below. And if you are listening to this and you are like, wow, this sounds like something that I could use. This sounds like something that I could definitely implement in my life. Like, this makes sense. But you're like, how do I apply it? Like, this is a lot of information, right? Like, where do I even begin? I want to invite you to a call that you can schedule by, again, going to the description and clicking in the link below, where we will talk about it for you. Free of charge, we will have a conversation about what this looks like for you, how you can start to develop more confidence right now, and how you can keep that momentum going moving forward. So that is what I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this. Comment below and let me know. Give it a like if it was helpful. That really does help me out. I feel like one of those people, like one of those influencers saying that, but it really does. If this was helpful for you, then share it so that someone else can be helped as well. And therefore, so that I can be helped, and therefore that we can leave this world a little bit better than we found it. So that's what I have for you. Thank you again. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you on the screens. Bye.